Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to Wrestling with Tone. My name is Tone and in this video we will be discussing the Money in the Bank 2017 pay-per-view. Now along with my beautiful angelic voice, there will be some WWE 2K17 gameplay going up on the screen. The gameplay isn't meant to be an accurate depiction of everything that happened on the show, but it is just meant to give you all something to watch while my beautiful voice serenades you and gives you my thoughts on everything that happened on the pay-per-view. So with that being said, let's get started. The first match on the show was a tag team match between Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley, the Hype Bros, and Primo and Epico, the Colognes. Now, back in December of 2016, Zack Ryder and Mojo Rawley actually became the number one contenders for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. But as that happened, Zack Ryder ended up injuring his leg. And the leg injury would keep him out of action for up to 6 months, I believe the number was. Maybe it was 7. But this match right here was supposed to be his first match back from that injury. And usually with matches like this, they're not instant classics, or they're not even good for that matter. The purpose of these kind of matches here are just to reintroduce whoever the injured superstar was back to the WWE audience. So if you watch the match in that context, then this match did exactly what it was supposed to do. It reintroduced Zack Ryder to the WWE audience after he had been gone for almost half a year. But like I said, with matches like this, they're not instant classics, or they're not even good for that matter. So if you didn't see this match, you don't have to go out of your way to go watch it, unless you're a Zack Ryder fan or unless you're a Mojo Rawley fan, which, if you're a Mojo Rawley fan, what is wrong with you? There's nothing appealing about Mojo Rawley. I can see if you were a Zack Ryder fan, he's the better of the two. But Mojo Rawley is literally the scum of the earth. So why you're a Mojo Rawley fan? I have no idea. I pray for you. But yeah, this match did exactly what it was supposed to do. Along with it doing what it was supposed to do, it gives SmackDown another tag team to work with. And the SmackDown tag team division is already thin as it is. So when Zack Ryder went out with this injury, it really was a blow to that division. But now that he's back, and now that the Hype Bros are a tag team again, it adds a little bit more depth to that part of the roster. If I had to give this match a grade out of 10, I would give it a 4 out of 10. Like I said, it wasn't an instant classic, and it wasn't even good for that matter. But it did what it was supposed to do in the sense of reintroducing Zack Ryder, reuniting Zack Ryder with Mojo Rawley, and giving them a little bit of momentum so they can eventually have that tag team title shot that they earn at some point down the line. But yeah, if I had to give it a grade out of 10, it would be a 4. The next match on the show was the official first match of the show, and it was the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now, a couple of years ago, if anyone would have said that the women were having a Money in the Bank ladder match, I would have scoffed. I would have frowned my face up in disgust, and I would have told you to get out of my face. Because back then, women's wrestling wasn't taken as serious as it is now. A lot of the women's wrestlers back then weren't actually wrestlers. They were supermodels pretending to be wrestlers. Of course, you had, certain women's wrestlers like Beth Phoenix and Natalya and things like that who actually could wrestle. But for the most part, the women's wrestlers back then were terrible. But it is good to see that women's wrestling has evolved and come this far to where they can main event pay-per-views, and they can have Hell in a Cell matches, and they can have ladder matches and things like that. And people actually, tune into the pay-per-views to see those kind of matches. But with that being said, the build to this match was, it was very good in the sense of it made sense why you would have this ladder match. Leading up to it, the SmackDown Women's Champion, Naomi, needed someone to wrestle at this pay-per-view. So to determine who that was, they held a fatal five-way match. They had a fatal five-way match to determine the number one contender. Now, that match never started because all the participants involved had beef with each other. So when they all made their way to the ring, it immediately dissolved into a brawl. And when the brawl was all said and done, Shane McMahon, the general manager of SmackDown, came out and announced that at Money in the Bank, it would be making history, and it would be the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match. The match saw Natalya take on Charlotte, Carmella, Tamina, and Becky Lynch. So the good thing about all the competitors involved were they all made a case to become the first ever Miss Money in the Bank. You know, Becky Lynch wants to get back to the spot where she was, which was actually women's champion. Charlotte wants to be SmackDown Women's Champion for the first time ever, along with Natalya, Tamina, and Carmella. The match itself was pretty good. They did better than what I thought they would do, you know, especially a match involving ladders and things like that. They were out there taking bumps. They were taking bumps with the ladders. They were involving the ladders in the match. So it all played out very well. The only gripe that I had with the match, well, there's two. One, I don't think the match lasted long enough. I think they could have added another 5, maybe 6 minutes to the match to get a little bit more out of the ladders and a little bit more out of the women. But the big gripe that I had with the match, and I'm pretty sure most people had this gripe with the match, and it took away from the match at the end, was the very end of the match saw James Ellsworth, a man, climbing the ladder, taking down the briefcase, and handing it to the person that he came out to the ring with. Now, the purpose of this match was to be something groundbreaking. It was supposed to crown the first ever Miss Money in the Bank. It's supposed to be something historic. So for a man to end up being the reason that someone else won the match, it really took me out of the match because I didn't tune into the pay-per-view to see a man win the Money in the Bank ladder match. Well, win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I tuned in the pay-per-view to see a woman do it. I tuned into the pay-per-view to see women's wrestling take that next step towards, being on the same level as the men. But when you have a man do, the dirty work essentially, it really took me out of it. It really took me out of the match, and it ruined it a little bit. I know it ruined it, a lot for some other people, but it ruined it a little bit for me too. So if I had to give this one a grade, if the ending that happened didn't happen, I would give this one a 8 out of 10. But seeing as the ending that did happen, I'm going to have to give it a 6. Like I said, the match was pretty good. They took the bumps, they involved the ladders. It was really short, and the ending really took me out of it a little bit. But it was a solid match all in all, and they did better than what I expected them to do. So, 6 out of 10. The third match of the night was the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match, which saw the Usos take on the New Day. So the build to this match was a little bit funky because, from what we were told, the New Day simply went into the office of Shane McMahon, asked for a championship match, and they got it. And I really have a problem with that kind of a build, and I'll talk about that later as well. SmackDown is supposed to be the land of opportunity, which means everyone has a fair shot at earning the opportunity to win championships or to have big matches or to be in the main event or things like that. So for the New Day to just simply walk in and ask for that, it takes away from the whole land of opportunity tag, especially with the way SmackDown has been, the way SmackDown has been written over the past couple of months. If you can just walk into Shane's office and ask for something, why doesn't everyone do that? Why isn't Mojo Rawley walking in and asking for a WWE Championship match? Why isn't this Ascension walking into Shane's office and asking for a tag team title match? Why is the New Day allowed to do that and no one else is? But with that being said, everyone that was involved in this match is a good wrestler. So leading up to the match, I knew that the match itself would be very good because everyone involved is, good at what they do. So, like I thought, the match was actually really good. The 4 men that were in the match have good chemistry with each other. And when you have good chemistry like the way, these 4 people do, you'll always have a good match. And then you can go back and look at some of the matches that they've had before. Those matches have been good as well. So I knew going into this match that this match would be very good. The only thing that I had a problem with was the actual ending, where saw the Usos get themselves intentionally counted out in order to retain their tag team championships. If you don't want to take the belts off the Usos just yet, and you don't want the New Day to suffer a loss, why put the New Day in this spot where you have a funky finish? Why not put someone else or another tag team in this spot to give the Usos a convincing win? That way, if the Usos are winning, and then you're ready to take those tag team titles off of them, and the New Day does it, it's a bigger moment than, the New Day winning by count out the month before, the next month winning clean. It just doesn't make sense to me, if you look at it that way. Anyone else could have been in this tag team match, and the Usos could have won, and it would have been fine. But, I don't write for WWE, and I don't know who writes for WWE to complain to them. So I can't do anything about it. But if I had to give a grade for this match, I would give it a 7 out of 10. So far, this match had been the best match on the show. It was better than the Women's Money in the Bank match. Even with the funky finish, it's still, at this point, the best match on the show. So with that being said, if I had to give it a grade, 7 out of 10. The next match on the show was the SmackDown Women's Championship match, and it saw Naomi take on the debuting Lana. So this is another match that had a very funky build to it. Lana debuted on SmackDown. She didn't wrestle, but she wanted to be a part of the Women's Money in the Bank match. She got told no, and then asked, well, can I have a Women's Championship match? And she got told no again. They actually laughed her out, which is very embarrassing. But she got told no on both fronts. Later on, in the weeks building up to Money in the Bank, she interfered in the women's champion Naomi's match, cost her that match. So Naomi went to Shane McMahon and said, I want Lana. I want to fight Lana. And if I have to put my championship on the line, then I will. But when Lana asked for the match, Shane told her no. So for Shane to turn around and say, okay, if that's what you want, it just doesn't make a little bit of sense to me. Obviously, you told Lana no for a reason. So to just turn around and give her a championship match anyway, it defeats the purpose of you telling her no from the beginning. Just tell her yes from the beginning if that's what was going to end up happening. You told the New Day they could have a championship match, but when Lana asked for one, there's an issue. With that being said, the competitors involved in this match, Naomi and Lana, were very interesting. Because while Naomi can wrestle, she's not good enough to carry someone to have a great match. And with Lana, the case for Lana, she's never had a televised wrestling match before. So the dynamics involved in this match, it was either going to be really good or it was going to be bad. And it ended up being bad. Lana went out there. She was very awkward. She was very clumsy. And like I said, Naomi, she isn't good enough to carry someone like that to have a good match. If it was me, I would have switched the roles. I would have put Carmella in this tag team match. Not a tag team match. I would have put Carmella in this championship match. And I would have had Lana win the Money in the Bank ladder match. That way, the Money in the Bank ladder match is a little bit more interesting going forward because you have this rookie winning, the first ever Money in the Bank ladder match for women. You take away that very disgusting ending that had happened early in the night. And you have Carmella, who's a little bit more well-rounded. She's a little better than Lana. You can have her in the ring with Naomi and you can have, a better match. But like I said earlier, I don't write for WWE and I don't know who does. So I can't complain to them. But the finish of the match saw Naomi put Lana in I don't know what her move is called. It's like she traps the arms and she cranks on the head. So it's pulling her forward. Lana tapped out in her very first match in WWE. And now Lana has, granted, she lost to the women's champion. But now she has no claim moving forward. Getting pinned is something different. But tapping out is a little bit more brutal of a loss than a pinfall loss. So now Lana has no claim to the women's championship until Naomi loses it. Which is why I thought she should have been in the Money in the Bank match. She could have held the Money in the Bank while she was holding the Money in the Bank, gotten better as a competitor, and then when she was a little bit more well-rounded or a little bit better in the ring, she could have cashed in and then won the Women's Championship. But with that being said, if I had to give the match a grade, it would be a 5 out of 10. Like I said, Naomi was doing her part in the ring, but you have to, if someone's in the ring that isn't as experienced as you not only have to do your part in the ring, but you kind of have to do their part as well. And she wasn't doing Lana's part. So if I had to give it a grade, 5 out of 10. After the women's championship match, we finally saw the debuting Mike Bennett and the re-debuting of Maria Kanellis. Now, Maria has been in the WWE before, but like I said earlier when I was talking about women's wrestling before, she was one of those women's wrestlers who was more of a supermodel, and she was a terrible, trash, disgusting wrestler. So she stepped down into the manager role, I think, and she lets Mike Bennett do all the wrestling. Now, Mike Bennett is a very good wrestler, but with Mike Bennett, he doesn't really have an established character. When he was wrestling on the indies, he didn't really have an established character, and even if he did, it wasn't as strong as it could have been. And when he was in TNA, it was the same thing. They had characters, but they weren't as strong as I believe they could have been. So hopefully now he's in WWE. Hopefully on SmackDown, he finds that he has that certain character, or he finds that certain character that will help him get over, because he's already good in the aspect of wrestling. He just needs to have that character. And hopefully Maria stays away from a wrestling ring and she just does all the managing for Mike Bennett. I don't really want to grade this, so I'll just say it was a very good way to introduce Mike and Maria Kanellis. The next match on the card was the WWE Championship match between Jinder Mahal and Randy Orton. Now, this feud or this rivalry right here has been a very big talking point amongst wrestling fans for the past 2 months. Because one half of this equation, Jinder Mahal, he's been a very, very, very controversial champion. And I'll explain to you why. So leading up to Jinder Mahal winning his first WWE championship, he has always been perceived as a joke and as a loser and things like that. And then one random SmackDown, he earned the right to become number one contender for the WWE Championship. And then he just won the WWE Champion. It was a very overnight process with Jinder Mahal. There was no build. And even up until the point where he won the right to call himself number one contender, he was a loser. Like, before he got to SmackDown, he lost his last match. He was losing matches before that. He got released by WWE because nobody cared about him. And even before he got released, he was losing match after match after match after match. So for him to just all of a sudden become, basically WWE champion overnight, it's been a very conflicting or very confusing past couple of months for wrestling fans. Now, my thoughts on Jinder Mahal was, at first, I was a part of that group of people who didn't understand why all of a sudden he's supposed to be this big deal. I couldn't suspend my belief enough to believe that Jinder Mahal is supposed to be all of a sudden taken seriously after 3 years or so of him being a loser. Now all of a sudden you want me to think that he has he's good enough to wrestle away the WWE champion from a living legend in Randy Orton. I couldn't suspend disbelief enough to believe that. But as time has gone on, and as I've seen things unfold as far as the build of Jinder Mahal, I'm starting to come around on the fact that he is the WWE champion. Yes, there are still some areas that I have issues with, such as him as far as his wrestling, and his character is a little bit, the formula for his character will always work, but it's been beaten to death over the past 40 years of WWE. And at this point, it's like, okay, he's the anti-American, doesn't like Americans. Of course, he'll get booed because he doesn't like America. But then it's the same thing that they were doing with Rusev when Rusev was hot. He's the anti-American who doesn't like America. That's the exact same thing that Jinder Mahal is now. On top of him not being the best wrestler on the roster, it rubbed me the wrong way, because at the time there were other superstars who deserved to be in the spot that Jinder Mahal was handed. So another issue that I had with this rivalry is, okay, you want to make Jinder Mahal seem like this big deal, and that's fine. They're going to do what they want to do at the end of the day. But if you're going to do something like this with a person who isn't the best wrestler, you want to have him in there with someone who will make him look like $1 million. And that wrestler is not Randy Orton. It's not Randy Orton for multiple reasons, but the main reason why it is not Randy Orton is because over the past couple of years, Randy Orton has been stuck in his ways, and he's very lazy, and he's very lazy, and when he's in there wrestling, you can tell that he's just going through the motions leading up until, the RKO. Every Randy Orton match as of late has just been him leading up to the RKO. There's no substance in the match. There's no stories being told. It's just, at what point does Randy Orton hit the RKO? And at a certain point, it's like, okay, where's the substance? Where's the storytelling? Where's the meat to the match? The RKO is fine, but there has to be something leading up to the RKO that when it finally happens is like, oh, thank goodness, Randy Orton finally hit the RKO. No, when you watch Randy Orton wrestle, it's like, okay, just hit the RKO so we can go home. That's literally what it is. And that's what it's been so far in this rivalry up until tonight. I think that Randy Orton and Jinder, while you can see why some people think it was boring, I think they told a nice little story in the match. Jinder Mahal, who was going out there to prove that he's not a transitional champion, he's not a paper champion. and Randy Orton, who was going out there tonight to prove to Jinder that what happened at Backlash was a fluke, and he's not gonna let Jinder beat him in his hometown tonight. So I think with that build up to this match, they told a decent story in the ring. Yes, there were some parts in the match that were very slow, especially the middle half of the match, where it was just rest hold after rest hold after rest hold. But when the match, leading up to the end of the match, when it kicked in the third gear, I thought that it was a very well execution. It was a very well execution last couple of minutes of the match. You had Randy Orton going wild, RKO and the Singh brothers through tables, this, that, and the third. His father got involved. Ric Flair got involved. He was hitting RKO after RKO after RKO. He got back in the ring, and Jinder hit him with, I think it's called the Colossus or whatever. It's a very terrible finishing move. Very terrible. He hit him with that, and it was 1, 2, 3. He's beating Randy Orton again in the middle of the ring. So now he's beaten Randy Orton for the championship, and he's beaten Randy Orton again to retain his championship. So now hopefully Jinder can move on to someone who will make him look a little bit better than Randy Orton has done over the past couple months. Maybe it's John Cena. That's the rumor that's been going around, is that his next opponent will be John Cena. And that is the perfect person to make Jinder Mahal look like a credible champion. That is the perfect person to do that. Hopefully this little feud with Randy Orton is over with. Hopefully they never have another. The match that they had tonight will be the best match that they have. So they don't need to have any other matches going forward. Hopefully Randy Orton moves on to someone that, he's out of the main event, someone who's not in the main event anymore. And Jinder Mahal can move on to John Cena, who will get him over as the credible champion that WWE is trying to make him out to be. So if I had to give this match a grade, I would give this match a 6 out of 10. The main event of the evening was the WWE Championship Money in the Bank ladder match, which featured Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura, Dolph Ziggler, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin. Now, leading up to this match, it had a very funky build, just like I've been talking about for the past couple of matches, where all the men that were involved in the match were handed this opportunity. And I believe on SmackDown, the land of opportunity, all the opportunities that are presented, you should have to earn them. None of these men earned the right to be in this match. They were given it. But with that being said, every man in this match, to me, had the case, or they have the in-ring ability, or they have the character ability to be called Mr. Money in the Bank, and I would be perfectly fine with it. Baron Corbin, one of my favorite wrestlers, the one who ended up winning the match, he wants to prove that he belongs in the main event, and that he hasn't been given the opportunities to be in the main event. But now that he's given this opportunity, he's going to take it. Kevin Owens, the ultimate opportunist, wants to become WWE champion again. Along with someone like Dolph Ziggler, who's won this kind of match before, knows what it takes to win and knows what happens if you do win. He wants to regain the WWE championship. Along with AJ Styles, who was WWE champion later last year, he wants to regain the WWE championship. And then guys like Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn want to be able to taste their first championship gold in WWE. Like I said, any of these men could have won this match and I would have been perfectly fine. But I think Baron Corbin was the perfect one to win this match, because he's the bad guy. He is the powerhouse of the group, and he's the hungriest out of the 5 other men that were in this match, if that makes sense. If you watch SmackDown, Baron Corbin has been the hungriest, and he's made the best case for why he wants to be Mr. Money in the Bank. And when he says things regarding the WWE Championship and regarding the main event scene, other than Kevin Owens, who could have won this match and I would have been fine, and he was the second, like, under Baron Corbin, who would have been perfect to win this match. When Baron Corbin talks about main eventing and the WWE Championship and things like that, you can tell he really means all the stuff that he's saying. So I think Baron Corbin was the perfect one, or the perfect competitor, other than Kevin Owens, to win this match. Now, the finish of the match saw Baron Corbin climb the ladder and get the briefcase, which, like I said before, is the right way to go as far as this match. Now, my thing with Money in the Bank ladder matches is the concept of the Money in the Bank ladder match is if you get the briefcase, you can hold it up to 1 year, and you can cash it in and get a championship shot whenever you want. I think with Money in the Bank, and I think they should start doing this, especially with the way Carmella won earlier in the night, I think that the Money in the Bank briefcase should be defended like a championship. Anybody can take that briefcase away from you if they beat you and the briefcase is on the line. That way it gives the holder a sense of urgency. That way they're not holding it up to a year. They want to cash it in and win the championship before they lose the briefcase. I think that you should be putting the briefcase on the line and defending it like a championship. That way there's a little bit more drama in when that person, whoever it is holding the briefcase, cashes it in. If that makes sense. I kind of worded that very funky. But basically, I want the WWE to start having the winners of Money in the Bank defend the briefcase like it's a championship, to add a little bit more tension or drama as to when the competitor is actually going to cash in. But if I had to give this match a grade, I would give this it was a solid 7, maybe an 8. I have to watch it again. But it was definitely a good match. It was a very good match. Now, my overall thoughts on the pay-per-view was this pay-per-view was very, very below average. It was a below average pay-per-view, and a lot of SmackDown pay-per-views tend to be below average, and I really don't know what the reasoning behind that is, and it's the exact opposite for Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw weekly it tends to be a bad show, but when they have pay-per-views and special events and things like that, they end up being really, really good. But with SmackDown, the weekly shows tend to be really good, and then the pay-per-views end up being below average. So, and this is another below average pay-per-view for SmackDown. So I want to know what you guys think. Like, why do you think that case is? Like, even Backlash, it wasn't terrible, but it was a below average pay-per-view. So I want to know what you guys think of Money in the Bank. Do you think it was a good pay-per-view? Do you think it was a bad pay-per-view? What did you think about each match going forward? What do you think will happen as far as the people who won the Money in the Bank, briefcases? When do you think they'll cash in? Just your overall thoughts on everything that happened tonight and everything moving forward. If you like this video, get the comment, rate, subscribe, or thumbs up, or whatever it's called. My name is Tone. This has been Money in the Bank 2017. I'm out.